looks good. Alright, so I'm gonna work on the Tanneries area today. Oh. Let's set the pivot to this. Oops. Oh, okay. The interior was attached to that. So let's actually give this an interior. Actually, first let's fix some of these holes and stuff. So there's going to be some funky UVs and stuff for a bit, but... I'll clean that up in a minute. That is better. Oops. Alright. So let's fix this real quick. Apologies, this is happening off screen. Group? Oh, it shrunk it. I think I had that at 16. Yeah, I had that at 16. But let's rotate that. Actually, no. Let's bring that back. I do like it that way. And we'll do the same here. And it did that again. Cool. So now I'm just going to, whoops. Trying to remember what I made these walls. I think they were a meter thick. Yeah, these look like they were a meter. Most of the larger, like, city walls type ones are about a meter thick. And the, kind of like average houses are half a meter. I think the gnome, if I remember correctly, I ended up shrinking down just a pinch. I think it might be like a quarter of a meter because the wall thick, like the depth of the windows, the thickness of the windows just did not look right. this should be fine. And now we need to give ourselves some edge loops. Oops, helps if I actually can use a mouse. Whoop. So I just select. Cool. Alright, so I got this. Hey Zukin, how's it going? So let's delete that. What do I want? Ooh, those are off. Hold on. I thought I fixed that. Apparently I did not. One too many. Alright, yeah, that's right. Hey, Shatari. Feeling amazing? Awesome. Good to hear. So, again, for everyone who's starting to pop in, playing around with the Tanneries area, but I'm also playing around with kind of this general area as well of the Traveler's Ward. I'm debating making these more like towers. But at the same time, I don't want it to mess up this. I think I like this side, and I think they're actually it's 5x5. I think the measurements are not the same. Again, a lot of this stuff was blocked out by eyeball. So I would not be surprised if these are not the same. Yeah, so this would have to be moved in like that. I'm gonna hide. Oh, actually, nope. That still needs to move in. There we go. Been working for 7 months straight. Vacation incoming. Oh, that is a good feeling for sure. Hey, Norden. How's it going? So I'm going to hide these markers down below so that I can reference them again if I need to. But this wall would essentially need to be moved. But if I end up doing this, this whole area towards the center would get broken. I still like the idea of this. Granted, right now I'm doing very blocky. Like, I just duplicated this. This would not be how this is done. I like the idea of this area being ruined. So, if I make this into a tower and this into a small tower, this one might still be broken up to kind of go along with the rest of this wall. And the, you know, the kind of the ruined areas and stuff over here. Hey Keith, how's it going? Good. Good. Nordan, awesome. I'm doing pretty well too. Minus that as my vacation is ending, I'm starting to do what I always end up doing, and I'm starting to become more nocturnal, and it's not good. I need to nip that in the butt. Because last night I couldn't fall asleep until like 4 a.m. And I was like, oh, this is not good. No matter how hard I try not to have it happen, I just am naturally nocturnal. And my body is, if I'm not like forced to get up at 8, it eventually catches up to me. You feel that, Keith? Yeah, I'm just naturally, I guess, more of a night owl. Turn this down a little bit. I think that can work. Just trying to see it from different angles, different points of view. Actually, I kind of like the half height. The reason I'm doing this is because I kind of want to carry this type of stuff into the tanneries. So, like, you know, this kind of broken up area was turned into the Traveler's Ward, and then this area also kind of dilapidated, but maybe instead of it continuing to be dilapidated to some degree, but just because there's travelers and stuff coming in and wear and tear, this was maybe slightly kind of built up along. So, you know, these buildings and stuff would be newer, or maybe this one won't be, but like this might be attached to it. This would be new. This would be new. And yeah, leave some space in here for trade skill merchants and crafting stations, which I'd bring in, but I did not actually get around to doing the leather-based crafting stations yet. So let's duplicate this. Right now, again, I in the beginning of the stream, I kind of made the interior based off of like one of these old ones. This could very easily be switched up a little bit, and it probably will be. This one's a little bit wider. How much did I move that? Move that over 2. So that should move over one. So these doors and stuff like that are not, you know, placed where they might actually end up being. So this would be very kind of just blocky, or blocking out, very rough for at least the beginning of the stream. Again, when you guys see me floating around like this, I'm just kind of looking at different perspectives and angles and stuff like that. Seeing how stuff is starting to shape up. Okay, so if I am doing this, that means this part would need to be broken off. Whether I keep this kind of tower intact or make it more broken up, I'll figure that out later. Let's work with the idea that these are going to be towered, like a kind of half, like a 50% taller version of these buildings down here. I need to stop selecting the terrain. Where is it? Now I won't select that, and let's turn off the ocean so I can stop selecting it as well. Because even when even if I have it locked and turned off, like I'll load back in and now I can still like grab it. This is the actor itself that makes up the whatchamacallit. This is weird. Let's select all. Steps. I suppose I should just grab everything because it needs to move anyways. Still missed that. Is that it? I have everything? Oop. Got the floor. Cool. So how is everybody doing this afternoon? Anybody up to anything fun at work, or... I know that's probably a dumb question, but... You never know. Someone might be up to something cool. It's all back to the same level. These are kind of oddly aligned right now because I had them aligned to the train over here off the one I duplicated. I was testing something out. So that is why they look a little funky. Alright. This would not have a doorway over here, I don't think. And it's something I can always bring that back real quick if I decide I do want it. But even if I did, I think I'd move its location. This one has? No. I must have screwed that up when I was doing something earlier. Alright. That. Will this be full? Second story, or is it just going to be like a really big thing like that? Or something more along the lines of... delete those. Oops. Oops, if I hit the right material. Although that scale is way large. Three by three is fine. Is this one 3 by 3 as well? It is. Let's turn that to global. And why did that not? What? Oh. I didn't delete the sides, so those didn't. actually merge when I tried to merge them. Seriously? What is going on? And we give ourselves a ramp. So for anybody who's doing Pro Builder, and has materials on there, if you, the first edge you select, so like if I select this edge and go to that one, and then bridge them, it'll pick the material from that's against the edge, the first edge you select. So if you do like that to that, it'll be this material. So, cool little thing I noticed a while ago. Figured I'd share. I want to do this. I think I want to widen this one too. Okay, so that is good. This issues, this needs to go. One, two, three, four. Whoop, four. That's maybe a little steep. We'll fix it in a minute. looks good. This edge could probably just be merged down and make my life easier anyways. Oops. Okay. And this will go to there. And that will go to there. And then that will just merge it up. Let's do this as well for consistency's sake. Oops, let's delete that. Let's throw so I can actually see what I'm doing. It's not quite 1 story in height, so technically it needs to be there. But this is technically probably not 1 story in height either, to be honest. Ooh, what happened here? Oh, I forgot when I moved the edge loops. I forgot to move this one, apparently. And apparently they were not sewn together properly. Okay, they are now. Oh wow, it's not as high as I thought. So move that, and then use the existing geometry. Like so, and then how this reads. Now that I'm looking at it. It might not be too bad. Alright, so let's go steal a ladder. Every time I do this reminds me I need to actually like model ladders to replace these. Local? No. Why is this not moving correctly? That would be why. I don't know how this is going to feel, honestly. This tower might need to be a little taller. I think it's going to be too smushed. Let's run around and see. I think I don't have enough head height. Move down slightly. No, actually, I do. See, that's why it's always good having the grid on. Obviously, I'm modeling something I already threw textures on, but my eye was telling me this was shorter distance than it actually is. Merchant here and there, so there's some room in there for merchants if we want to use them, or they could just be towers. Obviously this scale already works. I've used it before, except the texture down here swapped again for some reason. I kind of feel like this building is going to be more open. So like the front, maybe the front, or like either the front of it will be open, or like the front and one of the sides, or half of one of the sides will be open. And then this will just be a bigger one, and then this, I think, might be a, I don't know if this one will be front open or just be a normal building. Oop. Let's start with some of the walls. Section of these that are not broken up. Look like it, so I'm just gonna have to do this. I'm gonna start doing that annoying thing. Classic pivots. So let's get this all. Back to how it was. And need to delete the faces here. Cool. So now I can just duplicate this and move it down. I can't remember what the distance between these parts was. This side will have been cleared up, so this was essentially a walkway. This would have been like the doorway inside. So maybe having a little bit of like a remnant of a wall kind of over there might actually work, but we'll do that in a minute. I'll duplicate this and hide it because I'm sure I'll need it again. Merge these. Oh shoot, I should have. Let's fix up that line. Okay, now we can do that again. And merge. Is that merging the right spot? Alright, that was... Let's do these one at a time so I don't lose the seam again. Weird because that one side of the seam, like it was like it auto welded, which it should not do. Oops. Come on. Sorry, my eyes are Starting to burn a little bit. Stupid allergies. Oh shoot, did I delete that? Oh well. I sworn I just duplicated it. I must have Control Z back too far. These adjusted. So let's do this. Let's detach these spaces. Just move this up real quick, make sure nothing weirdly got selected by Pro Builder. And we'll move this to where this one is. And we will get rid of, oops, these extra bits. This one. And then just move this one down here for a second. We will grab these. Close that down. Reset our pivots, and there. Oh yeah, this still got the other one there. So then this building will need to get moved up. Let's go with global. See this? It's the water. I popped into game and then back out, and even though it's locked and was already saying that it wasn't rendering, likes to be funky like that. Okay. So there's gonna be a break in this wall, but it's gonna be kind of over here and look a little bit more cleaned up. Thing is, do I want? Oops. Probably a little too clean, but for now, again, we're doing this kind of rough still at this point. Is that weird? To remember how much. Or no, these aren't the double-sided ones. These are the single-sided ones, so that would not be relevant there. So we'll do this. Again, helps if I'm in local. So that means this doorway can get positioned like it was the interior of that that tunnel at one point in time. And we'll add a couple extra edge loops to give us just a little bit of feeling that probably it's sticking out a little too far, but something like that. Which also means I need to figure out what's going on over here. So maybe 90, 80. Actually, let's do this 25. Just make sure I'm on the same plane. So there we go. And then we'll just move this over here. to merge those two. So this would have, oops. Up to there, which really means that all needs to move. This, and that. Kind of cut the difference. So I hit the right number when I'm applying the material. And we'll give these materials again. Oops. Any bad seam? This is probably where there's going to be a seam. Fix that. Yes. Oh, no, we do not. And just going to clean these edges real quick. That up, and then I will spin it. Those. This is not needed. And I need to restart my music. Okay, so it's not going to let me do it the way I want it to, so we'll just do it this way. We'll just bridge that. Bridge that, and bridge that. Together, as with that. think once we get some trim sheets in here, I'm going to have a trim or something along that to break that up a little bit. It looks a little funky. So... Hey Stoic, how's it going? I really should just throw a grid back on this. Oops. Alright, Swirkin. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. I cannot complain. Glad to hear you're doing well. Hey Stoughton, how's it going? Save. That just kind of stuttered on me, which makes me concerned. So this wall is going to have a little bit more of the wall. So I wanted to actually see. This is the thing. Like, I was debating doing a sealed off doorway here. But if I want a wall here, it would be kind of dumb to seal that off. This needs to be moved slightly. How bad does it screw up this wall? Not too bad. Face. Oops. So it's existing geo. That's how you lined up. Awesome. Oops. Let's see. I'm all right, working, doing well. So listen, we're both lifer rangers. How well do you perceive, or how do you perceive the M&M Ranger to do? I watched the one shortcut where they were talking about the classes, and I really, and all I really got was kind of DPS and kind of utility, and getting a pre-Lukeland EQ flashbacks. Let's see. What did he say? I've heard the Ranger is doing a bit too well, and you know what that means. Yeah. It's been a week or two since I've played, or maybe 3 now since I've actually like played on the Ranger. So there might have been some changes in there that I haven't seen, but they were overpowered. The main difference right now, especially if you're a soloer, is Rangers currently and Archers have auto fire, which is nice. And the way we do auto fire is different than the way like EQ did auto fire, where you had to do / auto fire on. And I know that was something that was added way after even after Lukeland, or Luckland, or however you want to pronounce it. Where ours is just the same, like, you know, Q is auto attack. You can auto attack, and if you're out of melee range, you automatically start firing your bow, which is kind of cool. It actually gives a pretty different feel. The only thing is, where in EverQuest you can like be moving and shoot your arrow. Currently, that's not how our Ranger or Archer are set up. I still kind of want that. I miss that to a degree, but the duration for the cast to like draw your bow and shoot is like half a second. So you can still kite pretty well. And at least at low levels, the auto fire sharing the melee auto actually opens up some different strategies for how like bow kiting can be done, which I found fairly interesting. The biggest thing that makes Rangers OP right now is, one, the bow damage is pretty high, which is good. I mean, it's the goal is, from my talks with Nick, it's been a little bit since we talked about it, but the goal is to have the Ranger and the Archer be able to use archery like right away. Where in EverQuest, you know, you didn't do double damage on your bow shots until you were in 50, 51, something like that, before you started doing double damage. Another thing is, one, you're doing the double damage right off the bat, but the other thing is, and this is where like the moving while you're shooting, and I understand like EverQuest, to prevent Rangers being OP, you didn't get the double damage if the mob was rooted. I don't know if we're gonna do that yet. I would hope not, because we can't do the moving. So the firing and moving let you have double damage, if I remember correctly. Or if the mob was standing still and not rooted. I'm hoping because, like, that's where I'm, like, okay with the balance of having that draw string if we keep it so that, like, you can root and still keep the double damage. And just have shorter duration roots or something like that. Or the roots break if you nuke. Granted, that's what EQ did, but just have a higher percentage chance of that happening. Something like that. But Rangers can definitely put out some DPS. All melee can. Strike has been a little overpowered for a bit. I know we've been doing some tweaks, and like I said, I haven't play tested low levels in a couple weeks, so it may be better. But Strike at level 1 hits. When it hits, it consistently hits high, and it's a pretty big hit. That and the bow. When we did the initial combat revamp, like in Stat Crunch fix, like a month and a half ago, it was very noticeable. Like, I would shoot 2 arrows at a mob from max distance from the trainer bow, and by the time the mob would get to me, I would just hit strike as it got to me, and it would basically be dead, or, like the next round of combat would kill it. The big thing was just getting those initial skill ups in those, so that you were actually landing the hits. But if you were landing the hits, you would blow up anything. Casters were definitely at a disadvantage at lower levels, I think, at that point. But like I said, it's been a balance thing. There was even months before, there was another bow bug where, like, it was applying damage more. Like twice. It was doing double damage twice, I think. So it was doing, like, quad damage. So Rangers and Archers were stupid OP. Pre-game nerfs already. Can't have Rangers doing too well. But yeah, so again, the thing I'm pushing, and I haven't had to push too hard, is to have Rangers be good at, good damage. Maybe not, S tier or A tier, whatever you want to call the top tier damage on every fight. But if we do, like, disciplines or something like that, like I remember going back to my raiding days in EverQuest, I wasn't top of the DPS parse on every fight, but that one fight that I would use True Shot on, I could easily be top person on the DPS parse if I focused on making sure my dots were up. I was nuking every time my nuke refreshed, with the AAs and all of that, popping my god, what was it, Auspice of the Hunter and Guardian of the Forest, and all those, like, AA disciplines that were not quite as good as True Shot, but you could stack it up and just increase your DPS exponentially because you're attacking faster, or boosting your attack rating, or adding to the max damage, or whatever that you could put out. But yeah, it was, every so often you could hit that top DPS. It just wasn't sustained like, a monk or a rogue or something like that. So that is one thing that I'd like. We already are right now probably a little too strong. But also being able to be versatile. That was the one thing I loved about the Ranger class, was the versatility. Being able to tank, kind of. But I mean, pre-Lukeland, Rangers are really just kind of glorified crappy tanks. You don't do a lot of DPS. You have utility, but you're basically a chain tank. You've got good snap aggro. That's about it. And tracking. But yeah, I definitely want to keep it in that versatility, utility, and DPS type of idea. I'm not, obviously we're not at that point. I've even thrown out ideas for like how we can get that versatility kind of built into like epic quests and stuff like that for Rangers when we eventually get to that point, which is way off. But yeah. Syndikarov, welcome to chat. Where is Scorn Peon going to be? How do arrows work? Are you going to just have thousands of arrows while in a group? So are you talking about like the ammo? It's just like EverQuest and a lot of games where it draws from your inventory, basically an arrow's a regent type of a thing. So yeah, very similar. You have to do fletching, you have to buy arrows, that type of thing. I'm assuming there hasn't been anything like officially planned that will have. If we do like an AA system, we'll probably end up eventually having like an endless quiver type skill, would be my guess, so that you can have rangers and archers using the best arrows, as opposed to before you have that type of thing, those arrows are quite the investment. You generally don't use them. You just use like go back to EverQuest. You use a Talon's Bracer and you just use summoned arrows instead of Fate Arc, Greater or Fate Arc's Champion arrow or whatever the heck it's called. Because it's cheap, it's easy, you can summon it. I know we've talked. There's nothing in game, but like potentially there could be a quiver that's like legit, like a rare item that is either an endless quiver. If we don't go the AA route, we could do something like there's an item that just is a quiver that makes anything in it endless ammo, or a quiver that essentially is our version of the Talon's Bracer, that type of thing where it can summon arrows. So there's some things along those lines that we've thought about. But yeah, initial low-level rangers and archers, you'll be buying arrows and ammo, or fletching it. I usually, that's one of the first things I do as a rangers. I usually in EQ would get my fletching to at least 200 on TLPs and stuff. I don't think on TLPs I've ever actually got it up high enough where I could do like elemental bows and stuff like that. I could on back in the day. I used to sell the Earth Wood Compound Bow or whatever the heck it's called. Why am I not remembering the name of the EP bows? Obsidian was fire. Earth was Stonewood Compound Bow. Nightmare Wood, that was Nightmare Wood was from Nightmare. I used to sell those too. Featherwood was air. Obsidian was fire, and I cannot remember water. Stonewood, I am remembering it. Stonewood was whatchamacallit? Earth. In my opinion, the only two that were really worth getting, though, were either the Stonewood, if you wanted the flashy crits, or Obsidian, because it was just better DPS. Waterwood. Driftwood. I mean, skipped some stuff. Let's see. Are they easily craft with mob drops? Can they be removed from corpses of slain enemies? We don't have the crafting system in fully yet. My guess would be, again, kind of back to what I was saying a couple minutes ago before I read your comment. The archery, like the arrows, the low arrows would probably be pretty easy and pretty cheap. You know, I think the arrows in the game are pretty cheap. The like low level arrow, which we only have the basic arrow, and I think there might be like a trainee arrow if I remember correctly. The ranger and the archer both start out with different bows than other classes have access to. They're a little bit better ratio, so that they have a little bit more oomph right out of the gate in terms of archery. And they're a little bit faster, better ratio and a little faster than your typical bow that you'll find. But the arrows are pretty cheap, so yes. And you know, I'm gonna guess the fletching arrows will have some cheap arrows to make too, for the low levels, and then it'll come down to, you know, do you want to spend a little bit more money and make better arrows for a little bit more damage? In a grouping situation, you know, I generally don't use the best arrows. I don't care about flashy crits or anything like that. You know, well, granted, in EQ you don't crit with a bow right off the bat. If I remember correctly, I think it's in the 30s or 40s you start critting with a bow on a ranger. I can't remember. Now on TLPs. Before, I don't think you started critting until you got the crit AAs. Wow, everything in my brain is getting all foggy from back in the day. But anyways, so yeah, you know, like it'll come down to do you want to spend the money and use the good arrows? I would just use the good arrows that I would have, like the best arrows I'd have. I'd swap in when I was raiding, essentially. I'd put them at the bottom of my quiver or bag or whatever so that they'd get drawn last, and then I just swap the better ones to the ones that are going to be used first, and then you move the other ones down, just to help with DPS. Or I do it on, you know, like a named or something like that. I would do that too. I just grab one stack and move it over. But yeah, I would imagine there will be some easily crafted fletching ones that you can probably just go up to the fletching merchant, grab the mats for, and then, you know, if we're using fletching kits or whatever we decide to use as the ability to fletch, we go from there. And you know what I would do, especially in the TLPs where they let you put the fletching kit in your bag. But even before the TLPs, when I would just use the fletching kit as a bag essentially, and then I would just have, before I had a Talon's Bracer and before I had Endless Quiver, I would just have a bunch of regents in there, and then I would just craft more as I needed, because you can store more arrows on you if you just buy, you know, like a stack of arrowheads, a stack of shafts, a stack of notches, and a stack of feathers. You can actually carry more ammo than you could if you just had a bunch of arrows filling up your inventory. Is there a min-max option for ranger race selection? Not that right now I would say no, because there's no racial traits or anything put in. Usually, you know, from every game that I've pretty much played, Wood Elves are usually the best, because you just get, like, you know, an inherent dexterity boost, or maybe there's some sort of proficiency or something like that with bows. which generally makes them better. I could see hobbits having, or not hobbits, halflings having some sort of bonus to archery as well. I don't know if that fits our lore as much. I haven't actually read a lot on our halflings. But yeah. That would be dope. Have you use the ranger's innate ability to be able to finish? Are you talking about the strike ability, Stoic? Sorry, I'm way behind. With that, yes, I was using. So the strategy what I was doing was standing back, shooting a bow at max range, hitting it. And this is before I had snare, and then letting the mob get to me and using strike, which is basically like it replaces kick. It's a stronger kick essentially, that type of thing. And then I'd strike it, and strike, like I said, is a little overpowered, so it would basically be the finisher. So it'd be like let the mob come to me, it gets into melee range, I strike it. It's almost dead, and then if it isn't dead, I just would auto attack, and it would be finished. If it wasn't, as things got, as I get further, I would do that. And I'd strike it, run through the mob, run out to, run a decent way ahead of the mob, turn around, and then rinse and repeat. And I would just kind of do that over and over again. Things have changed a little bit. Pathing has changed. I haven't tried it since pathing. The mobs were running a little slow back then, so that might not be as viable of a strategy anymore. You should be able to recover them from corpses. I think we mentioned potentially doing that. The only thing that would be annoying, it's such a pain in the ass to be in a group then run out of arrows after a marathon session. Yeah, that is. But again, I like I said, I would pre-Talon's Bracer, I would just have a bunch of the mats because I could store more ammo on my character that way, and I would just craft them, in a group, and it works. That's how I would do it. To just extend how much ammo I had. Again, we'll probably have some sort of equivalent to a Talon's Bracer. Like I said, there is potentially like a quiver or something like that has been talked about. Boland's Bracer. Morning Wood. I have a feeling we will not be using that as a bow name. Actually, I think it was Primordial Driftwood. Yes, that was it. Primordial Driftwood. That was the water bow. Which I don't think I ever made that one, to be honest. I think I made a Featherwood occasionally, because some people liked it just for the super fast ratio on it, because I think it was like a 23 delay? Let me look that up. EQ Featherwood bow. Let's see, did I actually remember that? 24 delay. I said 23. So I was real close. I'm actually surprised I remembered that. Or got that close. But yeah. Actually, I think I would just make them like Kender. You were talking about the epics and needing to be able to utilize the ranger's ability to finish it. Oh, yeah, I was just I had floated some ideas on what the quest could be, linked in with other stuff we've talked about, behind the scenes that I'm not able to talk about here. But the idea of keeping the Ranger itself versatile, and how that could potentially be brought into an epic for the Ranger. So adding some versatility into that is kind of what I've been talking and pushing. Whether that actually will end up happening, I don't know. We're way, that's something way in the future. It was an idea I had after like a 9-hour drive to pick my kids up. Or was I picking my kids? I was either picking my kids up or dropping them off at their mother's, or halfway or something like that. But anyways, long drive gives a long time to think. But I won't go into too much details on what the idea is. You guys can eventually learn that when we get there. And you guys get to see all that stuff. 5 views. Oh, awesome. Let's not and say we did. And HB20553. Hey, so guys, how's it going? Okay, so now that we're done with the Ranger conversation for now, let's try to get a little bit more of this worked out. But speaking of Ranger epics, I've almost finished the one I've been working on, based off the EverQuest 2, or not EverQuest 2, EverQuest 1. 1.5, 2.0. I think eventually, though, I printed it with my FDM printer, and sanding all the different grooves and stuff, it's not easy, because it's plastic and layers and stuff, so it's not as clean as I wanted it. So I think at some point I'm going to redo it with my resin printer. The reason I didn't do it initially on my resin printer is because the resin itself can be like fairly brittle. Like if it bumps into something, it'll chip pretty easily. So what I might do is print one off in resin and then like make a mold of it and then like pour cast it with epoxy or something like that, so I can have like a really like nice and clean one, because like going in and painting parts has been really annoying, because like there's just little like imperfections that I wasn't able to get out because of the angles and stuff like that. And it's like I said, it's just not as clean as I was hoping it was going to come out. Sorry to distract you from productivity arrangements. Oh no, not an issue at all. Like I've said before, these streams I don't necessarily anticipate being super productive during, because I understand there's probably going to be lots of questions and discussions and stuff like that. So do not worry about asking questions or wanting to have discussions on things like that. That's part of the reason why we do these, or at least why I do these streams. Hold on, 4. Oh, that's right, it was 5. So technically this should be there. Mandrake Rangers should be able to make their own arrows without mats. Just start like picking pieces of themselves off. Oh, that wouldn't work. Alright, so is this that? I swear, Pro Builder. There we go. Oops, I deleted the face. I wanted to delete the whole thing. Oh my goodness. There we go. Apparently I left faces on the bottom. Let's get rid of those. So I'll move this over here. I think there's going to be a little piece of this kind of leaning up against like the wall. So like this will kind of break down. This wall was one that I just kind of arbitrarily threw in here, so this will eventually need to get scaled and broken down. May even put a little bit of the original floor back in, like here. I do want this wall to be a little deteriorated. But again, I kind of want this side to look a little bit more cleaned up. Those. Another edge loop. Bring that back. So I guess back to that conversation on the Rangers, Stoic, if you're still here. Kind of, back to your question, what do you, as a fellow lifetime ranger, what do you feel is the core kind of identity of a ranger? What do you like about playing the class? Because what I like about playing the class might not be what everyone else likes about playing the class. So I'm always curious. Being the butt of all jokes. It's probably, I mean, I guess that's part of it. I'm very much into self-deprecating humor. And I'm a Cleveland sports fan too, so that probably feeds into that a bit. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's do something similar to this side. Oops. And let's play with the oops. Yes. Which means some of these are gonna have that. This was from the I wasn't paying attention when I did this earlier. That was from the curved one. So these ones shouldn't have it. This one will, but I don't need to mess with that right now. these ones will have it too. Oops. I feel like there should be some windows on this. So just collapse this down. That one's already merged. This one's not. These two need to be down there. And, ooh, that is not what I wanted to do. Sew anything together. Oops, that time I did. Okay, let's do that again. Let's trim this down. There. Someone needs to develop a good single-player game developed around Ranger, like an open-world Tomb Raider game without all the guns. Far Cry Primal. They could be kind of cool. My son likes Far Cry Primal. I actually haven't played it myself. I always play I always play Skyrim like I'm a ranger, so. Or actually really any Elder Scrolls game. I'm gonna be serious. Although I play it more like a scout, I guess. Very sneaky. Sneaky archer. Alright, so that edge is my center. It's not a ranger, but it's like a ranger. Wasn't there? I could be completely making this up right now. Wasn't there like an Aragon game? Back like in the early 2000s when the Lord of the Rings were still like in theaters. Shadows of Mordor, but was he a ranger? He was a ranger, wasn't he? What's his face? I need to go back and beat that. I have both of them. I haven't played the second one, but I was like super close to the end of the first one, and then What happened? Oh, I know what happened. I got on this game. I had finally started like replaying it about a year ago. Because that was one of those games I would start and then I'd stop and then I'd come back and be like, what am I doing? Which I've done a ton of times with the first Assassin's Creed. I've never beaten it. I always get to like the same spot, and then like something comes up, and I stop playing, and then I go back, and I'm like, oh cool, I should play this game again, and then I'm like, oh shit, what the hell was I doing? Every time, every damn time. I've done that at least 3 or 4 times with Assassin's Creed. And I come back and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm like, alright, I guess I'm gonna start over. It just seems like there is a lot of potential for a really in-depth game centered around archery, tracking, forging. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot you could do with that for sure. Kind of an open world survival game to a degree. Set in like a fantasy setting. We'll have to check out Far Cry Primal. Shadow of Mordor was the first game I got all the achievements on. I never played Kingdom Come Deliverance, but I feel like that's a Ranger like too. I haven't played that one either, even though it's more realistic, I guess. Yeah, I have not played that one. So that is 1 up, 2 wide, and 1.5. I'm wondering if there's going to be any Rangers in the new Rings of Power show. I know obviously there wasn't Rangers. Like the Dunedain were not a thing at this point in it, but I still wonder if the concept of Rangers will get brought into it in some way. Or maybe it will be, but it'll be like a later in later seasons. 'Cause I think the first season is just kind of like a setup, and then the second season they'll be forging the rings and Numenor will fall and all that fun stuff. So the Dunedain were essentially Numenorians, right? If I remember correctly, yeah. They were Numenorians in... that were from Arnor, I believe. So, I guess technically, towards the end, we might see some of them, or like the beginning of the Dunedain Rangers. That'd be kind of cool. That would definitely be something they'd have to totally, like, create the backstory for, because I do not believe there is a direct, like, story of that in Tolkien's Legendarium. If there was, I do not remember it from reading the Silmarillion. Granted, I haven't read, like, Lost Tales and all of those. I have copies of a couple of them. You got Children of Húrin and Lost Tales, but I have not actually sat down and read them. Let's see. I hope that turns out to be good. I don't know that much about Lotro lore. Honestly, I was more nervous about the Rings of Power before they started showing stuff. Some of the production, like some of the like crowd scenes and stuff, look a little like low budget, even though it's like the most expensive show ever made. I think they've spent over $1 billion on it or something like that. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I've read, the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings. I finally made it through the Silmarillion last year, after probably a dozen attempts. But man, the Silmarillion is tough. It's a tough one to get through, and keep everything track of everything. But yeah, no, I'll be interested to see how this one turns out for sure. But I was, like I said, I think I was more nervous before. Some of the stuff they've been showing has been pretty cool. I still don't know how I feel about the choice for doing the elves with short hair, and the female dwarves not having beards. Like, it's one of those things, like, I'll probably just be like, alright, whatever, it's just how it is later, but it's one of those things, it's like, it's always been that way in Tolkien's version, or, like, in Tolkien's lore. So, like, just visually seeing, like, all the paintings and representations and stuff, it's just gonna be weird. Granted, there hasn't been a whole lot of depictions of female dwarves, but they definitely had beards, and now they don't. And I'm like, I guess I'll just have to take the, like, all the lore and stuff that I previously have and just be like, okay, I'm just watching the show. It is what it is. But it'll be interesting. And I mean, hopefully the stuff they expand upon will be good. It'll be interesting also to see how they deal with the time crunch. Because I know they are definitely doing a time crunch. And, like, for anybody who hasn't read the Silmarillion, like, some of the stuff that's going to be happening, they have to, like, basically keep, instead of it taking place over thousands of years with, like, multiple people, they're just, like, condensing it into, like, this person and that person, and it's all happening within, you know, like, their lifetime. So they don't have to, like, every season bring in, like, an entire new cast of people and then, like, set them up and, like, set that story up. So I get that from, like, a storytelling perspective, for a show. It could be kind of difficult to do, so, but I'm definitely willing to give it a try. Tolkien's drawings and paintings are awesome. Oh yeah, I've got a bunch of them around my room. You guys can't see them. But I've got, like, a bunch of the movie maps on my wall over there, and I've got a bunch of John Howell painting prints on my walls around here. Granted, they're not, like, framed or anything like that. They're just kind of, like, stuck up on my wall. But I eventually need to get them all framed. But it's a lot of pictures. I feel like it'd be expensive. Tolkien's drawings and paintings are awesome. Yeah, Tolkien's actual, like, drawings and, like, the ones that he did and stuff himself are actually pretty good too. I'm super jaded about everything, so I expect it to be total crap. Yeah, I go in now with I don't want to say skepticism. I go in with low expectations. I've gone into too many things with super high expectations and then just been like, wow, that was underwhelming. Game of Thrones, for instance. Like, I'm super excited. Right, I shouldn't be, but I'm very excited for House of the Dragon. It's been a while since I've read Fire and Blood and A World of Ice and Fire, which this whole series is based off of. I vaguely remember the story points about what's going on, so it'll be interesting to see, like, the Dance of Dragons actually, like, happen on screen. So I'm looking forward to that, and the trailer to it looked awesome. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm getting myself super hyped up for it, but I'm like, I really should go in with low expectations, because I was super hyped for, like, season 7 and season 8. Oh god, that was such a disappointment. I could go on for hours about how disappointing that was and why why they just didn't pass the series off to someone who would have actually finished it and given it the time that it needed to be done. I'll never know. If they didn't want to do it, why finish it? Just give it to somebody else. But nope, that's not what they chose to do. Yeah, fucking Game of Thrones. Yeah. Obviously, you guys all feel the same way. I'm just glad that House of the Dragon is actually all right. Part of me is very glad that House of the Dragon is literally George R.R. Martin's show. Like, he and the showrunners, like, built the show up behind the scenes before they brought it to HBO. So, like, he has a lot of say in it, where he did not when Dave and Dan were running Game of Thrones. And obviously Dave and Dan did a great job in the first couple seasons when they had books to go off of. But then we all know what happened when they ran out of books, and then we're starting to get offers from Disney and Netflix and all of that. But yeah, so that part of me is glad about that. the Song of Ice and Fire book series fan of me is not, because it's been, what, 10, 11 years now that we've been waiting for the Winds of Winter. And I would really much like to actually read that and A Hope for Summer at some point in my life. So I have a little bit of a mixed opinion on him putting a bunch of his time into that, but you know, hopefully we'll get a pretty solid what, 4? I think they said they're planning 4 I think it's House of the Dragons is going to be 4 seasons, and Rings of Power is 5. So hopefully both of them turn out pretty good. Keith Parkinson Prince, right? Actually, I don't have prints of his up. I've wanted to get them. I haven't had the money. I do have a bunch of his prints on cards, though. They've been sitting. I got them out of storage when I got on this when I got on the game, because obviously, you know, his art is an inspiration. So they've been sitting here for a while now, next to my computer. But yeah, I have all the little ones over here. But this has to be one of my favorite of his, the Ice Dragon one. I always love that painting. And the stupid green screen effect is gonna like rip it out of my hand, but hey, let's build this up. Kill this for Arya so she could come out of nowhere and do things that wasn't even aiming to do. Yeah, there were so... I don't know if you guys have read the books and stuff. There are so many storylines that they started setting up in the show that just died, and in the books they kept developing them, and a lot of those storylines they just abandoned actually seem like they're going to be important in the books still, because they just keep building up. And then there's whole characters that just that seem like they're pretty important that are just not there. Yeah, I mean, like, Mance Rayder isn't dead in the books. Or, yeah, he's like hit whatchamacallit? Like pretending to be dead, essentially. And then, like, they swap his son with Gilly's son when Sam and Gilly go down to Southtown, or was it? Oh my God, what the hell is the place where the Old Town? And then there's a whole other, like, Targaryen potentially alive. There's all sorts of craziness. Catelyn Stark comes back as a zombie, which they just totally didn't even do. And it seems like it has something important is going to come of that at some point. But yeah, I just so many things that they even like started doing, and they're just like, nope, I don't, whatever. And then, like, all of the character building they did on, like, Jaime, and then they just completely throw it out. And I'm just like, what are you guys doing? What is this? But I don't know. I really wish they had just passed it off to someone who cared. Still so mad. Yeah, me too. Me too. I am excited enough, though, that I've decided I am breaking out my a Feast of Ice and Fire book, and I'm going to be doing a medieval feast again for the start of this this show. I would do it the beginning of every season. I would like, I started off with just doing like a dish, and then I would do like an entire like spread. Trying to think what I did for the last one. I think it was rabbit stew, rustic bread, and something else. Or no, it was a pigeon pie. I might have done pigeon pie for the finale. I can't remember. But I need to figure out what I'm gonna be doing. I'm debating doing something. Trying to find something like Blood and Fire related. It's not in the cookbook, but my son loves this YouTube channel that he turned me on to. What's it called? History Eats. Oh, let me see. Tasting history? Yes, tasting history. Where this guy like researches old like recipes and then like makes them in his kitchen, and then like through the process of it like teaches about it as well. Like the history of it and stuff like that. So, but anyways, there's a bread that my one son has been wanting to make, which technically would fit the theme. So I'm debating doing it, but we'll see if I actually do it. But it's a blood bread. It uses like pig or cow blood in it, and it like looks like super red and dark. But I need to find a butcher around here that actually would sell that kind of thing to me. I'm sure they would. I just have to actually like call around. Like, this is a really weird request, but can I buy some blood off of you? Oops. Let's see. Still mad. I think you mean Ed Sheeran. I think they kind of did the Stoneheart thing with the uncle. Maybe. I don't. If that was their version of it, I think it was kind of lame. Lady Stoneheart. Is pretty cool. And there's the whole thing with like her and Brienne, and I'm like dangerously getting into spoiler territory for the actual like books if people actually want to read them. So I should probably stop talking. Because the books are very different than the show. if you did not pick up on that from other people or just this conversation, they're fairly different. So check them out if you have not and you enjoyed the show. And maybe one of these days George R. R. Martin will actually finish them instead of doing all these side projects. But I totally also like sympathize with him too, because like when I'm not working on a project, like I have ADD. Like legit, I have ADD, but I definitely have like creative ADD when I'm working on stuff. It's just like, oh man, I got this really cool idea. Oh man, I got this really cool idea. So sometimes, like when I'm working on stuff by myself, sometimes it's like hard to push through and actually bring a project to fruition, because you sit there and you're just like, oh man, this new idea, I want to do this one now, I want to do this one now. It's like, nope, you gotta focus. Just keep grinding away at the one. That's why I find it much easier to work. Actually, I'm pretty good at working by myself. But when I'm actually like working on a project, it tends to hold my focus better. Let's see. Wow, you guys have been paying attention to chat. What a coincidence. I just watched one of his videos last night about honey fritters. Oh, tasting history? Actually, I think I watched the honey fritters one. His channel is really interesting. I've been meaning to buy, I need to buy like a jug and a bubbler. I want to make the mead that he makes. I love mead. I've wanted to brew it myself for a long time, but the one he did seemed pretty easy to do. Your ranger just got to steal a few bugs from the elitist blood bank. Add some leeches. I could just go down to the river and grab some leeches. There were a couple times when I was a kid that I went down there and I got bit by leeches. Let me tell you, if you've never been bit by leeches, they're not fun to remove. I've also been bitten just by... I use them sometimes as bait when I go fishing. Bass like them, but they are not fun to remove if they bite you. When they bite you, that doesn't hurt. Removing them is not fun. And those little suckers are strong. Man, are leeches strong. I know he goes through historic food, but I really would like him to go through Monster Hunter World food. Blood bread is great, deep elf-sounding item. Yeah, it did. It doesn't it? It looked interesting. Like that was the one that my son initially turned me on to the channel with. He's like, "Can we make blood bread?" I think it was like just before Christmas, last Christmas. He's like, "Can we make blood bread?" I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you gotta watch this channel." He's like, "It's really good." So yeah, I've been watching his stuff every now and then, as the algorithm like will occasionally throw me a video. And now that I'm sitting here talking about it with a mic open, I'm sure, and my phone next to me, I'm sure creepily I'll open up. Next time I open up YouTube, it's gonna be like 4 of his videos sitting there. But not that I'm gonna complain. I like I said, I do enjoy his channel. But yeah, Bloodbread I was not aware that was a thing. Don't you have a Scorn peon to flush out? He's too busy hitting clubs and terrorizing new beaches. I had issues, ended up going to the doctor and getting Ritalin prescription. I used to be on Ritalin. Well, it wasn't Ritalin. It was some generic form of Ritalin. Something methylphenidate. I was on that for a while. Actually, I hadn't been on it in my entire... I still haven't been on it in my entire, like, adult life. But, man, when COVID happened and my, like, brain fog really started kicking in, jeez, like, my attention was, like, super, super spotty. It's the first time in my adult life where I was like, should I try to get back on it? Well, I don't even think they prescribed Ritalin, whatever I was on. It's Adderall now. But I was like, should I go back on that? Because, like, man, I was struggling to keep focused. I mean, to a degree, I have it still, but, like, during the initial COVID stuff, man, I was definitely struggling at times to keep focused on stuff. Wish I would have done that 20 years ago. I used to get leashes too. Get out the salt. Oh, you used to eat leeches? I've never eaten leeches. I imagine they're really chewy. Like, really chewy. They're so strong. Like, normally, like, when you're fishing, like, a worm, you're like, oh, it's a worm. Like, a leech is just, like, pure muscle, it feels like. Pure muscle and then, like, super sharp teeth. Cottage lakes and whatnot. If Steve-O can take a leech to an eyeball, I think I can take it to the arm. Yeah, it's just not fun to remove. Honestly, it doesn't hurt when it bites you. It's just getting it off is not easy. Even, like, I had one where I remember one time I was fishing, it, like, I was trying to get it on the hook, and it, like, weird around and, like, stuck itself onto my fingernail, and it was so hard to get off. They got, like, suction, I want to say like suction cups, but I guess it is kind of like suction cups that just kind of make them really hard to get out. A lot of my family is in some form of methylphenidate. I'm assuming that actually might be what that was, but no, don't eat them. Oh, okay. I probably just misunderstood what you were typing, which is pretty much par for the course. Reading comprehension is not my strong suit. Say, I've never even heard of anybody eating leeches. I'm assuming you could. I mean, people eat snails. But I would imagine they'd be pretty chewy, like grossly so. Salt kills them, like snails and slugs. I have never tried to salt a leech. Not that I've actually. I don't think I've ever salted a slug or a snail either. I always felt bad. I was like, no, I won't do that. But I did not know that also works with leeches. I need to go back and watch the old Jackass movies again. It's been so long since I've seen those. Quite some time since I've watched the original Jackass movies. I still watch those all the time and like the old CKY videos. Which really, a lot of the old CKY videos just ended up being like the first segments on the first season of Jackass. See how that is. I'll probably, if I keep that on, I might end up extending it the entire way. Let's see. Good old Steve-O. I used to love Jackass and those types of things, but I cannot watch people getting hurt. or doing vile things anymore. I still can. I just haven't in a long time. Well, maybe my tolerance is no longer there. It's, like I said, it's been a long time since I've actually watched them. So I guess that'd be a to be determined. As long as it's all consensual, it's hilarious. Yeah, some of the stuff that they do is crazy. Me and my friends were definitely part of the reason why they ended up having to put those do not try this at home type of things on it, because we were idiot teenagers. Still wonder how all of us managed to make it to adulthood with all of our fingers and still breathing, but somehow we did. Which also makes me nervous with my my kids approaching that age, knowing all that incredibly stupid stuff that I did back then and somehow survived. We definitely had Roman candle fights. So funny story about Roman candle fights. We would do Roman candle fights, but we also were really, like I said, really stupid about some things. When I introduced my ex-wife to my friends from high school, we walked over to we didn't walk over, we went over to my friend's house for the 4th of July, and we walked into the backyard, and my friends were throwing mortars at each other, like they were hand grenades. So they were just like mortars, like exploding on the ground and like flying around, and yeah, like I said, they were really stupid, but that was her introduction to my friends. Her grabbing me and being like, "I'm gonna die," and I mean, none of us did, but man, we were stupid, really, really stupid. This down because that's not going to be needed. Again, I wish this was one of those things I really wish I could just grab an edge loop and be like, delete, and it would be gone. I've grown weak in my old age. I grew up. I totally skipped over some stuff. I grew up in Philly, which is 35 minutes away from BAM, and they started the whole CKY thing, so it was huge in my area. Oh, I bet. Yeah, there was. I'm from like Cleveland, so there was not a whole lot of that type of stuff natively in this area. I mean, I don't think we had any like big name, like legend skateboarders in this area until last summer, when Muska decided to move back to Ohio. Which I didn't even realize he was originally from Ohio until he moved back. We definitely had mechanical fights. Remember firing bottle rockets from the little groove above the door on my first car? Twisted Metal. We surprisingly did not do that. We may or may not have intentionally hit each other with cars at one point, which, again, we were really stupid. Probably, again, to blame on Jackass for us being stupid like that, but we did a whole bunch of really, really dumb things. Muska flip is sick. Oh yeah. That's how I used to do when I was able to do frontside flips. I totally did a Muska style because I could not. Same. I guess actually it was the same thing. Same reason that Muska did him that way, at least initially, was because he couldn't get him. He couldn't get him to rotate flat. I never could get him to rotate flat. I can't do him anymore. But yeah, I definitely never could get those things to rotate flat, no matter how hard I tried. But yeah, Muska flips are awesome looking. Yeah, they call them illusion flips too. But I think that's more of like a modern thing. I don't think they were called illusion flips back when I skated like all the time. I still skate with my kids from time to time, but man, my body has reached that point that I've just got really bad knees. I always had bad knees, but my my body has a finite amount of ollies in it, or ollie type tricks, and then I just nope. Basically, my body's just like, yeah, no, that was it. We had fun. So most of the time when I go to the skate park with them, I just do whatchamacallits at this point. lip tricks and stuff like that, and try to relearn some. Actually, I've learned a couple things that I had never done before. Skating with them again. I actually finally learned a 360, which I had never been able to do on a skateboard. I just could not get my foot I couldn't get my foot to stay on, and it was purely I just was not leaning far enough in a direction. And this area, like the Cleveland area, did not have very many skate parks. There was one big one that I did not have the money. I was very poor to go to all the time. And the one time I went, I did not have my parents with me, and I had to sign a waiver and all that stuff. So they're like, yeah, you can't skate. But took my kids to their modern one, and definitely like the resi ramps, like the ones with they've got like foam underneath, because man, you can like easily break that mental barrier and just like hardcore lean into stuff and not worry, because you're just basically falling on a piece of plastic with a gym mat underneath it. It really helps your like mentally just being able to commit to stuff. But finally learned a 360 to fakie. I'd only been trying that for, over a decade. Back when I used to skate all the time. But for the most part, just do lip tricks and stuff like that now. Was working for a while there. I was working on trying to relearn my tray flips, but I caught a couple of them, but they were not consistent. And again, I can only do it a couple times, and then my legs are just like, yeah, we're done. Good luck. So, kind of gave up on that. I bought a blank Zero deck to put together, and wanted to ride it and it feels weird, or I want to ride it and it feels weird. Like, I don't remember Zero decks feeling so concave. Red bones bearings and Spitfire wheels. Yeah, I've got. Is it reds? I think I have Reds Premium. I have like the second tier, and Spitfires as well. And I have what kind of deck do I have? I've got a Darkroom deck, which is oh my god, what's the dude's name? Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. He's the artist that used to do like the late 90s Alien Workshop decks, and then he went to Element for a while. Totally blanking on his, but he started his own company. And at the time when I was younger, I didn't realize, like, I started with Alien Workshop decks because I just liked the art, and then I went to Pendleton. Yes, thank you. That is exactly who I was thinking of. Is his first name Dan, I think? Yeah. I loved the Alien Workshop art. It's just so different. And then went to Element when he went to Element, and I didn't realize that for the longest time that it was the same artist that had just gone somewhere else. But when I saw the decks, I was like, oh man, that totally looks like the old school Alien Workshop. And then I looked it up, and I was like, oh man, he's got his own company now. Yeah, same here. It's been a while, and it was one of those things when I looked it up, and I was like, hold it, Pendleton, isn't that the dude who did Alien Workshop? And then I looked back, and I'm like, oh, it is him. But yeah, me and my oldest son both have decks of his from his new company. But yeah, I do not shake off slams as much as well as I used to either. And since Tony Hawk is getting up there in age and getting injured at least once a year, I'd probably be good to invest in a couple Birdhouse decks. Yeah, he snapped his femur not too long ago. But he was up and like riding a skateboard again in like a couple weeks. I think he was back on a skateboard within like a month. I was like, Jesus. I feel like if that had been me, I'd been crippled. I mean, I'm already like essentially crippled, I feel like. But yeah, I was super impressed. Granted, he's been taking care of himself for years and all of that, and I definitely have let myself go. So I'm sure that has something to do with his ability to bounce back. But man, is it crazy how he's what, 54? 54, 55, something like that. What's the hotkey to merge verts like that in Pro Builder? Alt C if you're using the defaults. Alt F4. The good old Alt F4 suggestion. I accidentally Alt F4'd myself a couple times playing Diablo a week or so ago. I was holding Alt, which I found out that the Diablo Resurrected has the ability to like toggle it so you can just have the item drop names on at all times, which is awesome. But I was running around like old school style, holding down Alt. And I went to like change a skill, so I hit F4, and I kept did it like 2 or 3 times, where I kept like crashing myself out because I was running around looking at the loot and then like wanting to swap a skill. And I was like, I did it like 3 times in like a day, and I was like, I really need to figure out a better setup. And then I found out that I could just toggle on the gear. So I was like, oh, cool. Yay, quality of life update. That's how you zone quicker in EverQuest, wasn't it? He did his last night. He did his 900 last year. Dude is insane. I don't think he did a 900. I think he did a 720 last year. Because he was doing I still have to watch the special he had on HBO Max. But he was retiring his he was retiring tricks that were either getting too dangerous or he just didn't do a lot of. For I don't remember if it was for that documentary or for something else. But the 720, the last time he did the 720, before that, was crazy. If you guys have ever seen it, his ramp in San Diego has like this, probably, I don't know, I've never been there obviously, but it's probably like a 12-foot section that's just like open, so you can like air over it, or they'll put like a bar across it so you can grind across or whatever. He did the 720 and then like landed weird, went through that gap and like slammed into a like a support girder, and then hadn't done it since then, which I don't blame him. I slammed doing a boneless finger flip back in October, and I haven't done very many of them since. But I jacked my shoulder up in the process of doing that too. But he did that, and I think he did. He also retired the Ollie 540, which I was never. I don't know why. I was never good at spinning backside like that. I can only imagine how you would keep the board on for a 540. But man, I was garbage doing backside 180s. I oddly, so this is how weird I was as a skateboarder. I learned how to ollie like in one day, pop shove it like in 20 tries. I was heel flipping like within 3 days of starting to skateboard. It took me like a year to learn a kickflip. And in that time, I learned how to varial kickflip, like like I had that on lock for the longest time. 360 flip and backside 180 kickflips. I could do backside flips, but I could not do backside 180s. I could also do big spins, which I didn't know were called big spins back then. And I could do all this other stuff, but I could not keep the board attached to my foot doing a backside 180. But like frontside, I could do. I had that unlocked easily. I was always better at spinning anything frontside. I just couldn't get the 360 around because I just was not leaning enough into kind of my left hip. Have you seen Bob? Oh yeah, Bob Burnquist's like Dreamland or whatever he calls it. That thing is, well, now if you watch, like I have a bunch of skateboarding things and stuff I follow on like Instagram and stuff and Facebook. It's looking pretty dilapidated. I think he spent most of the time in Brazil during COVID, and the maintenance of that ramp, the lack of maintenance on that ramp over that time definitely is noticeable now. But man, that thing is scary looking. What's his name? Elliot Sloan's got a setup in his backyard too. Actually, I think they just did the X Games in Elliot Sloan's backyard. I think the vert competition and the mega ramp stuff was all in Elliot Sloan's backyard. But his is like a mini mega. Like the one that Bob has is crazy. Bob's is insane. And then Bob's has the whatchamacallit on it now too. There's like, so you got the quarter pipe, but then you've got like a launch ramp that like goes sideways, so you can like go up, fly through the air, and then land in it. Absolutely crazy. Like I used to do like big air stuff on. Granted, I wasn't amazing at it, but I did big air stuff on snowboards. But that's attached to your feet. I was always garbage at ramps, going off of ramps on skateboards, trying to keep the board to your feet and timing everything right. I could ollie like really well flatland, but again, I think it was part of it was just like the parks in the Cleveland area were not great. There was not many of them, and they were not great back when I was in like high school and skating all the time. Nowadays, like there's so many parks and so much better. Like the one local park that I used to go to all the time, still there, but the transitions were terrible. They were like 3 feet and they'd go almost divert, so it was like super tight, so it was super like sketchy to learn some stuff on. And then like the blocks of concrete would have like a half-inch gap, and then like you would have the elevations where one would be like a quarter of an inch up and a quarter of an inch down. So like sometimes as you'd be like, let's say doing like a rock to fakie or something like that, because you're leaning in on that wheel going in, you totally just catch that little tiny bump on that between the two plates and just go straight to your face. There was all sorts of like just really poorly laid out things. The pyramids were like super steep pyramids, and they had the same problem. Like if you came down at the wrong angle at the wrong point, you'd catch this like gnarly lip that's like you'd go down and then there'd be a bump up, and you would just be like pancake. So that like the parks were not great when I was a kid here. I could kickflip, but I couldn't heel flip. That forward motion felt alien to me. Yeah, heel flip was super like natural. Like I said, I learned heel flip like in a day, in like probably 2 or 3 days, and by the end of that week, I was double heel flipping on flat ground. Heel flip was like super natural to me. Oddly enough, I was never very good at rotating, like doing a 180 heel flip. I was really bad at those. I could like front side flip Muska style, and I could backside kick flip. But heel flips, I was not very good at spinning them. I do not know why. It was just super awkward for me. And then what else? I was really good at front side heel flips. I can't do them anymore. I occasionally tried to relearn them, but it's one of those things my knees start giving out on me before I really start getting there. And I used to have inward heel flips on lock. I can still pressure inward heel flip. And if I move my front foot, I can cheese it and make it look like I'm doing an inward heel flip. But in reality, I'm doing a pressure inward heel flip. But I can make it look like I'm inward heel flipping, but I'm no longer inward heel flipping. But yeah, I do not know why, but I was just really not good at getting the rotation like actually spinning and doing a heel flip. But I could do it with a kickflip. But kickflip for the longest time, I would like. I fell into the bad habit of flicking down, and I just couldn't get my front foot on. I would consistently flip every time, and I'd consistently catch it with my back foot. But that was also, I think, again, tied just to the times where, like, I learned a lot of my my skateboarding tricks by going on to, like, skateboarding websites, watching videos, and then, like, trying to, like, pause it frame by frame and, like, dissecting what they were doing. Where nowadays there's just, like, a bunch of trick tutorials and stuff like that. Where it's just like, oh yeah, just do this. But yeah, it took me forever to realize it was like a flick out and up, like actually like a kick, and not like a kick down. And then once I realized that, I was like, oh. But the weird thing was, like, because the way I would do backside 180s, like, I would be twisting and I'd just flick back behind me. And it would just, the way I would be rotating and flick it, it would just instantly go around 180. And then I would just land straight on it. It was, I was, I was amazed I could do that, like, pretty well and pretty consistently. And I would stand there flicking the damn board over and over again and catching it and be like, why can't I do this? Like, what is going on? Why can I do it this way? And why can I varial kickflip? And why can I do all this other stuff? And I just cannot get it to freaking flip. It used to drive me insane. I would just stand out on the cul-de-sac at my grandparents' house, like, screaming, like, why? Oh, good times. The amount of airtime on that ramp is scary. Yeah. I felt like I lost control with a heel flip for some reason, like the board being behind my leg wiggling out. I naturally, like, because there's definitely a balance to it, because, like, if you lean too far back, you know, the board will shoot out in front of you just like a kickflip. But, like, I naturally just, like, shifted my weight right, where, you know, the first time I tried it, or first couple times I tried it, it was rotating underneath me. It just wasn't going all the way. It was just trying to find that angle where I was hitting the board correctly. I don't know. I find myself still to this day, like, I set my foot up differently for heel flips. I hang my foot off a lot more than other people do. And nowadays, a lot of people, like, almost set up, I've noticed, for heel flips in, like, the kickflip position, which I'm just like, why are you doing that? Like, it's so much easier if you just hang your toes off, but I don't know. But yeah, those big air ramps on a skateboard would be terrifying. Again, like I said, I'm garbage going off ramps. Just because I didn't have a whole lot of access to good ramps back in the day. So I never really was able to develop that skill set. But snowboarding was awesome. Like, I remember the first time I hit like, really, like, got, like, you know, 10 plus feet in the air on a snowboard, and, like, being like, oh my god, I'm about to die, and then, like, landed it, and was just, like, completely shocked at how like, pillowy soft it is to land. when you like land perfectly on a snowboard. It, like you can get so high in the air and be going so fast, and then it's just like, yeah, cool. Like I was totally expecting my knees to just like, you know, feel like I jumped off like a 2-story building, and it did not feel that way. And my favorite, back in the day, my favorite thing to do on a snowboard was just get a ton of speed and then bust a giant like Japan Air and just like super tweak out a Japan Air. I used to love to do that, and just feel like you're flying. The only things that I didn't like was if the landing was super steep, like and it just dropped out below you. That still would scare the crap out of me. The amount of air ramp, lost control, on the board. Too many visions of getting nutted by the top edge. Dude, I used to get nutted all the time. I used to get credit carded all the time doing Muska flips. Especially learning them, because you have to like rotate. I also did, that's how I did hard flips too. Like my hard flips were like, you know, like the illusion flip where they like pop straight up and then do that. So they'd have to like rotate between, you'd have to rotate between my legs, and if it didn't rotate fast enough, oh god, that was a not pleasant experience. Oh god, that always sucked. I can't snowboard or ski. I can't turn left. Oh, that is it. Is it just the like leaning that direction? That like mentally it's just hard to like lean that way, or yeah, I used to love snowboarding. I took my kids snowboarding for the first time, I think in 2020. My youngest was really into it. My oldest was just getting frustrated. But I think it's because he was like, I can skateboard, why can't I snowboard? But he was also like, still had only been skateboarding for a couple weeks at that point, or not a couple weeks, a couple months at that point. So he still hadn't like mastered everything. I actually got kicked out of my my first snowboarding lesson for being too good. No joke. I'd been skateboarding for years at that point, though. Like, I had been skating, really, you know, for years. One of the neighbors at my grandparents' house gave me a like one of those old like orange banana board, like plastic banana boards, with like the clay wheels, from probably the early 70s, late 60s. So I learned how to like just ride downhill and turn and, you know, go goofy footed and regular footed and all of that, from that board. But actually, let me do this. And then I was joining ski club, and my parents had bought me for Christmas a board and a whatchamacallit, a book on like the basics. So I knew about like what the fall line was and stuff like that. Like the stuff that doesn't translate from skateboarding to snowboarding, I already kind of knew because I read it. Went in at ski club, and ski club you had to, at least at where we were, you had to do a lesson the first day. Regardless, you needed a lesson, and depending on how you did on your lesson, or what lesson you took, you would get your sticker, and that allowed you to go to whatever, color hill you qualified for. And I never done it, and my one friend decided to go from ski blades over to snowboarding since I was doing snowboarding. And so we started doing the lesson, and did like here's how you strap in to the bindings, and that type of stuff, which I had already done. I'd already played around with the board like at my grandparents' house on like a hill there, so that stuff wasn't new. And then we went to the bunny hill, and I was getting so frustrated because I'm sitting there like going down, and I'm turning and I'm falling, and I'm like, why the F am I falling? Like I can't, like, what's going on? And the instructor like comes over to me, and he goes, here, and he just hands, it was like we were doing the light green. It was light green, or green, light blue, dark blue, and then black, because the place we went didn't have double black runs. And so I'm sitting there, and he goes, oh, here, and he hands me a light blue, and he goes, you need to go take a dark blue lesson because you are carving, and you don't have enough speed to do that on a bunny hill. And I was like, oh. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you're way more advanced than this. He's like, I'd give you dark blue, but I'm only like certified or whatever it was to give light blue. So I within the first like 10-15 minutes got kicked out of my lesson for being too advanced. And my one friend who had skied blade before and skied was like, well, screw that. And then he quit doing the ski blade, or doing the snowboarding, and went to ski blades because he's like, I'm not going to sit around here and learn this by myself. And I was like, cool. But yeah, true story. Yeah, snowboarding was a lot of fun. You just turn right harder. I tried it. You just start rolling down fakie. I'll just stick to playing Cool Borders 3. Man, I used to love Cool Borders. I wonder if you can actually get those, like the old games, the old Cool Borders games on any of the stores. I think it's the original Cool Borders that I used to play a ton of. That and SSS Tricky. That was another good one. I'm so sad. Did you guys see that they canceled the Tony Hawk 3 and 4 remake? Me and my kids loved my kids loved the remake, and I thought they did a really good job on the remake. So I was really looking forward to them redoing 3 and 4. But alas, it is not to be. I used to love making it to the bottom of the run without catching an edge. Different strokes for different folks. I used to love going, getting to the end of a run and to stop. I wouldn't just lean back or like toe side or heel side. It didn't really matter. I could stop either way. I would just start spinning like circles to stop. Obviously, make sure there was nobody in front of me. I wasn't that dumb, where I was gonna like wipe out and like take somebody out with me. But I used to love to just like spin all the way down to stop. I always found that really fun. People would look at me like I was an idiot, but I really enjoyed it. I never tried skiing or anything like that. I did try to teach my brother how to ski, which I don't know if he's in here. I don't think he's been in any of these streams in a while. But that did not end. That did not end well. I gave him like the basics on like how to turn and how to stop and all that, and was like, okay, I'm gonna go up this hill. And do one run just to warm up, and then we'll go out. We can go to like the green hill afterwards. I just want to warm up. He's like, no, I got this. And so we go up, and I'd never been to this place before, and we were on like a family vacation. My sister and my parents went and did like snow tubing, and we go up this run. And he's never done a ski lift before, and we get up to the top of the ski lift, and it was the steepest drop off to a ski lift I've ever seen in my life. And like I have never since getting off a ski lift. And he cut in front of me, took me out, and we both ended up in a ditch. So anyways, we get out of there, and like the run I wanted to go warm up on was towards the center, and he had this little gentle like swale, kind of almost like a giant quarter pipe, super gentle, like perfect, like almost bunny hill, like to learn. And like I had him do like the turns and the stop and stuff on it. It was like great. I'm like, cool. So I'm like, all right, don't go down the fall line. For anybody who doesn't know what the fall line is, basically if you stand at the top of a hill and roll a ball, the fall line is where the ball will go. It's the path of the least resistance. That is where you go if you're skiing or snowboarding and you want to get the most speed. You follow the fall line and you gain speed. If you cut back and forth across the fall line, you lose speed. And then, so I'm like, go back and forth, and stop. And the hill kind of like went down and then kind of had this flat spot and it branched out. And the runs in this place all had trees, so it was all like forested pines. And so I go down, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna stop. Just remember to cut across the fall line and go slow. Keep your I showing him how to brake, and he had already done that. And I'm like, keep speed checking if you get too fast, and stop. Go down 100 feet and meet. Come to me and stop. So I go down, I turn around, and I'll go like this, and he starts going, and he turns right. He turns left. He turns and just goes straight down the fall line. And I'm like, uh-oh. And he just goes by me, like, with his hands up in the air at the ski pole. He's just screaming, like, ah! And I'm like, stop! I'm like, turn! He doesn't turn. He goes over to so he ends up going over to the edge of the run, catches a lip, and then just flies into the trees. And I'm just like, I totally just killed him. Like, I was totally expecting him to be like broken neck wrapped around a tree, and I walk up and he's like bent in these like his legs are bent in this horrible like position, but they weren't broken. And I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, no. Or he's like, yeah, I'm fine, or whatever. So he like popped off his skis and he's like, I'm done, and like put the skis on his shoulder and just like walked down the hill with me. And he, in the process of flying into the trees, had like punched himself in the face with the ski pole, so he had this big black eye already. And I was like, well, I ended his ski career really quick. Good times. And then he ended up, I think, sitting in the ski lounge for the rest of the day while I kept going through forest runs, and going through the terrain park. Let's see if I can get back to chat. There's been a bunch of stuff been going on. Nothing wakes you up like skateboarding to the yeah, that definitely wakes you up if you aren't already awake. If you're daydreaming, you're snapped back to reality real quick. Oh, I don't know. It's been like 20 years since I tried snowboarding. Turning left and having to lean backwards a bit made it feel like I wanted to fall backwards. Yeah, it totally does. And it's weird because also with snowboarding, that's another thing I learned from that book. Leaning forward, you want to lean forward. You don't want to lean back, which everybody, like your natural instinct, even with skateboarding, like when you're going down a hill and you start going fast, your natural instinct is to like lean back because it's safe, but that's actually not how physics work. That's a great way to land on your ass real hard, on a skateboard at least. Snowboard, you can't really lean forward and lean back as much, but you want to keep your weight over your front foot. But that's one of the things I love about snowboarding is like when you get that speed and you lean into a carve, like you're basically like laying down. Like it feels like you should not be on your feet still, but the momentum like carries you through it, and you can like pump through it, and you actually gain a little bit of speed if you know what you're doing. So much fun. When I went snowboarding with the kids though, I was mostly on green hills. I think I went up and went down one black hill, and then I did a blue hill twice with my youngest son. Because he really wanted to go, but we went real slow because I didn't want him. He didn't have the control to like go down a run like that. But I only got to like fly down it once or twice. But man, that feeling's awesome. It's almost as fun as like just flying through the air. But I didn't go off any jumps really. I did like a tiny like kicker, but that was about it. And since it was a day pass, I felt like it wasn't even worth perfecting. Paid is too good for the tutorial. Yeah, that was essentially what happened. I was really confused, and I think I really pissed off my one friend. He was like, "That's not fair." It was essentially the look on his face. I was like, I don't know what's going on, man. I got kicked out. Could definitely emulate it. Yeah, totally. I love the Tony Hawk Underground remake. I only played the first Underground. That was around the time where I stopped playing the Tony Hawk games. My thing with like sports games, and to a degree, Tony Hawk's is a sports game. After a while, I need a break from them because they just get so repetitive. Like, for instance, like a actual sports game, like an NBA game or like a Madden or something. I'll try them like maybe once a decade. I cannot do the yearly thing because it's like it's the same game. Like, if I try them every like 10 years or so, there's like the game feels different. But from year to year, it feels like you're just buying the same game. And I don't. I'm not that big of a sports fan where I feel like that's the only type of game I can play. But I do try it like every 10 years or so. But yeah. Tony Hawk 1 through 4, and then Underground, the first one I played, and then at that point I stopped playing the Tony Hawk games for a while. Really until the remake. I'm still super bummed is not going to go any further. At least for now. Double black diamond lift drop. Yeah, the lift drop. Yeah, essentially was like a double black diamond. It was crazy. Legit. Only time I've ever... I mean, I didn't fall on it when he wasn't with me, when I went on it a couple more times. But man, that thing was sketchy. And you didn't know it was going to be sketchy until you got right there. And you're just like, oh, that is... that's quite the drop there. And it wasn't groomed well either, so it was like, it wasn't super smooth. It was kind of like really janky. Oh, good times. Alright, I think I'm going to run around real quick, and then I'm going to call the stream for today. It's been really fun, especially... a little bit reminiscing about snowboarding and skateboarding has been pretty fun. These guys can probably get moved around. I'll let Nick and Sean move them around because I don't know exactly where they're going to want them. But this room, I might just slide this wall over a foot or two because this room's feeling a little thin. So this building will probably get scaled a little bit. I like this exterior spot so that we could have vendors over there if we want, and then this building I'm gonna have to move that wall as well. And then we could have like we could either have the merchants there or like tanning racks there. I don't know if we're actually use them. I'm not sure exactly how detailed, like how many different stations we're going to want. For like the smithing one, I did like a forge, I was doing a smelting one, an anvil, a grinding stone. So if we want to get like super complex where we have a bunch of different stations you go to, we could have like, you know, the rack itself, but then there's like the actual like vat that you would go over and like soak the stuff in. Even if we don't do that, I'll probably put a couple of those vats around. Honestly, this building, I'm going to take out the interior wall. I think this is just going to be one big building. The vats, I might maybe move the vendors over there. I don't know. I might put like an overhang here and put like vats, even if it's just an aesthetic thing. Like you could walk up and like that's where you would put the stuff, and then we could do the drying racks either here or somewhere. And there's enough space here that we could potentially move in some of the other trade skill areas as well. Yeah, this room needs to get expanded. Yeah, this one it just needs a little bit more depth. Ooh, this hallway went from 4 to 3. So well, when I give the depth over there, this will get a little bit more depth too. Cool, this works. I need to raise that up too. Cool. So it's starting to feel alright. To figure out where the doors for this building will be, and again, probably add something similar like this where you can see that this used to have a wall there, and whether I want the wall, how far I want this wall to actually extend. Do I want this to be, you know, like you can walk all the way across it or not? This side I do not want it to be. Maybe a part of it. We'll see. I need to figure out how I want to treat this. Do I want this to be broken off more, or do I want this to be more refined? I kind of do like it this style though, where it looks like it's been broken, but it's kind of a little bit more cleaned up than like this. And then this needs to be... Yeah, his knees look a little... He's a little pigeon-toed, or not pigeon-toed, duck-footed as well. Ali's been doing stuff with the animation controller. So I have a feeling some things have been breaking. I know there's something weird going on with the terrain's collision. Like, when I make adjustments... Like, that's where the train used to be, so I'm floating. And then over here, I've risen this up a bit, and then you just go into it. So I need to figure out what's going on. I think it's the script that Ali has on it for the new nav system. I think I just need to remove that, because I think he said it could be removed. But I think that's what's causing it. But there's some really funky things going on with the... with the terrain's collision, so definitely need to figure that out as well. Yep, yeah, he does some high-tech farming in Bahrain. And then we also have this weird bug where, like, the human body's calling now. I know he was trying to fix that. I think he was trying to fix the hair and the ears on one of the other characters, but I think in the process it's causing issues now with the whole body. You almost went to Bahrain in the Navy? I've only ever been out of the country a couple times, but I did not join the armed forces. I debated at one point joining the Air Force, but then I realized that I get motion sick, and my dream of being a fighter pilot quickly was sunk. But also, part of it was my grandfather was a tail gunner in a B-17, and was a prisoner of war in Germany for a while, and one of the things he had always said that he, you know, went through with what he went through, essentially so that, like, his descendants wouldn't have to serve in the military. So out of respect, I kind of also didn't join for those reasons. But yeah, I like these towers. I mean, obviously, this one still needs to be actually, like, refined. It's just two things stacked up on top of each other right now. Actually, I could probably, at a minimum, get rid of the Z fighting by just moving this down. But I really like how this is shaping up. Like, this frames it. You get the nice, you know, perspective lines going right down to this. You got the nice little taper, the kind of rocky, craggy tapers. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with the top part up here, because this is literally just a bunch of edge loops kind of flowing all over the place. But I like how this is, like, I really like the way this shot is, or this angle is playing out. Chair force, right? Half those chairs hit the speed of sound. Alright, I think I am going to call it a day for the stream. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I've had a lot of fun today. Oh, I totally did not notice the follow. Thank you, Jenny SB, if you're still there. I apologize, I totally missed the follow earlier. I just noticed it as I was doing this stuff. If you are there, thank you, appreciate it. If not, I apologize for missing that. But anyways, thanks for hanging out, guys. If anybody is new to the project, we are making an indie MMO that is very... why did that not... You know what? I bet you... Cloudbot, or Steambot, what is it called? Steambot? Hold on. I bet you have to log back. I hate when it does this. Yeah, Cloudbot. Go to Cloudbot. Enable. I hate when it does this. It like disables itself. There we go. So, take two. We are making a indie MMO based on the classic kind of first generation MMOs. That link will take you to our website, and there's all sorts of information on the game there, as well as team members and frequently asked questions, that type of thing. So check that out. If you have any other questions, feel free to hop into our Discord. It's a fairly large community now. I think we're starting to close in on 1,300 now. We're over 1,200 people in there. We have all sorts of discussions, whether it's about our game, if people have some questions about the game, people giving ideas, things like that. Just game design in general, other MMOs, tabletop gaming, all sorts of different stuff in there. We have a section for community members to share like fan art or just art in general, content and stuff like that. Always fun to see. So yeah, feel free to join. There's a bunch of us in there. So yeah, have join that. Wow, I just totally had a brain fart there. But anyways, if you'd like to stay up to date and not join the Discord, that link will give you to the mailing list. We send out updates from time to time, and surveys very rarely, but we'll send those out occasionally as well. So you can stay up to date that way. These are the other members of the team that stream. If you have not already thrown them a follow, I would recommend it. We all stream our different aspects of the game that we work on. I primarily work on the level design and the environment art. So that's what my streams are. My streams are Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've been doing, obviously, Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I might do one next week. That might be the last one. I really need to start transitioning into getting some prep work done for the semester that's coming up. For those of you who don't know, I teach game design professionally. That's my day job outside of M&M. But other than that, if you'd like to get caught up on any of our past VODs, we have a YouTube channel. So that's a link to it. All of our VODs are on there. If you are watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe, comment below, click the bell, all of that stuff. It really helps us out with the algorithm to kind of get the word of the game out to more people. that are really into classic MMOs and things like that. So we really appreciate it. Other than that, I am going to... Oh, the other thing, if you guys are watching on YouTube and you want to join in on the live chats, there is a link somewhere in the description below to my Twitch channel, which is Paytus the Ranger. Just click the link, follow the channel, and you will get a notification whenever I go live, and then feel free to hop in. Always willing to answer questions, whether it's about the game or just kind of the technology and how to do stuff. Always, again, I'm a teacher. I do this all the time. So always willing to help out and explain things to the best of my ability. But yeah, thank you guys again for hanging out. But yeah, I'm gonna go get dinner because I'm getting hungry and I've been chatting for about 4 hours now. So I will catch you guys on Monday. Later.